Coming up on this episode of the Spiro podcast.
You should expect all of your people to price shop you. You should expect all of your employees to look for jobs.
Welcome to the Spiro podcast, managing your real estate photography and videography business. With your hosts, Todd Kivimaki and Craig Magro.
Hi, and welcome to the Spiro podcast, managing your real estate photography and videography business. Spiro, it's a software platform. It's designed to help you manage your day-to-day real estate media business, but ultimately really help it grow and scale as well. We want to see you succeed. I'm Craig Magrum. Welcome back to another week. If you're returning to the podcast, if you're brand new, it's all about the business of real estate media. We want to help you build a strong business and see you succeed in your market or markets. So welcome. Got a great topic this week, but before we get to that, let me introduce our co-host and Spiro owner and founder, Todd Kivimaki. Welcome back, Todd.
Craig, great to be back. Fabulous week on this podcast. Craig, what did you smoke as far as meat last week in the recent history?
In the last 2 or 3 weeks, it was ribs. Did a couple of racks of ribs. I have to confess, though, they were not my best ribs. I don't know if I didn't let them go long enough. Flavor was there, but just that tenderness where you get just that right bite, just wasn't quite there. So I need to redeem myself.
Well, what we can do, Craig, I have an idea, is we'll invite all of the Spiro listeners down to Ohio, and we'll give you an
Ohio?
Yes. And we'll give you an opportunity to perfect your ribs.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I need a larger smoker. Can Wow Video Tours provide me a larger smoker?
Yeah, I think we can arrange something.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we can write it off, right? Can't we?
Yeah, there we go. I don't know. Business expense. Yeah, it's for our Spiro clients. Yeah, we'll
put a logo on it.
There you go. Actually, I am getting ready to do a couple of pork butts, some pulled pork for my camping neighbors. I started a dangerous tradition last year where I smoked 2 pork butts and invited our immediate camping neighbors around for some barbecue, and they liked it so much that they've already approached me this year and said, "You're going to smoke some more pulled pork this year for us, right?"
I remember this story from last year. Yes, I guess it's always good to feed people.
It is, and you want good camping neighbors because they're right next to you.
Yeah, hopefully they're not like the neighborhood cat that just keeps, you feed the neighborhood cat once and you just.
I'm not going to.
Go ahead.
I'm a visual guy. I'm not going to be able to get that visual out of my head now.
You're going to be chuckling when you talk. You're just blame it on me.
I am.
When you have this smirk and your camping neighbors are going to be like, what is wrong, Craig? It's like, it's not my fault. It's Todd's.
They already asked that question. What's wrong with you, Craig? Okay. All right.
And that says a lot because, and I camp at a campground too, so this is nothing discriminatory towards people that camp. But if people at a campground ask you what's wrong with you, like,
yes. But on all seriousness, speaking about smoke, and this might affect a lot of those of you watching in the northern part of the U.S., northern, say central to the east, we're dealing with actually wildfire smoke from Manitoba, Canada. We've actually got an air quality warning here in Northwest Ohio, and I know it's covering all of Michigan as well. It's very, very hazy out right now.
It is. Yeah.
It's incredible. So those of you having to deal with that, and especially our viewers and listeners in Canada, hey, our hearts and prayers are going out to you for those wildfires. We know that's tough right now. So
yeah, for sure. Hopefully all of our friends in Canada are okay. And we saw it was like 90 jobs a couple days ago or a day ago, because we've been rainy too, and went down. I checked. I was like, it was like 70. I was like, where did 20 jobs go? It's like, it's rainy, it's foggy, it's the smoke. So
I've got a drone shoot right on Lake Erie, and I'm a little concerned about the haze. So real things that we have to deal with as real estate media professionals, right? So
they are. Yes, they sure are.
All right, let's dive into it.
Yeah, Craig, we have a good one today here. I'm excited about this one.
We do. That we're calling this episode "The Race to the Bottom," and we all deal with it. Todd, you saw a great question on one of the Facebook real estate media groups this week. that talked a little bit about somebody's competitor that was offering photos and drone for like $200. And just the discussion that ensued around that. And we thought, that's a great topic, very business oriented, dealing with the question of, do I compete on price? How do I compete against people that are offering, photos for, in our, what might be cheap in our market, but trying to run a profitable business?
Yeah, it is. So I'll just set this up a little bit so you all have kind of, if you haven't seen the post, and there's good conversation in there. So basically, a real estate photographer saying, "Hey, I got this text from a realtor that said, my current company does photo and drone for $195, and then asked this individual if they can do that price." And so this individual is like, "Hey, what do you do? How do I? That's not what I charge. What's a great way to respond to this?"
Yeah.
So, and now there's a few different trains of thought here of what's going in. So, one, it's great that you have realtors reaching out to you, right? And I don't know where this message came from. If it was maybe a response to a text message that was sent out like a cold or warm, if this was an Instagram, right? Anyways, there's an agent that is showing interest in your company. And I remember when no one showed any interest in any of my companies. I remember it with Wow. I remember it with Spiro. And you're just sitting there like refreshing, like my ringer must clearly be broken. Nobody's calling me. I mean, do you remember those days, Craig?
I do. That first year I was working directly with Spiro, it was tough.
Yeah. So
other companies out there providing a service that you're trying to provide as well. So how do you compete against that?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm strategically kind of setting this up here to mentally just make sure that we have the right mindset. Because I think immediately, and I see this question a lot in this current thread that's going right now, I see it all the time. You all see it all the time. And it's a very valid question. But the thing is if you become surprised that agents text, email, call, ask you for a lower rate, you're already in the wrong state of mind. Now, I'm not saying this poster, if you find this thread, he was actually very level-headed about it. But I hear a lot of people say, "Hey, why would they want this? How do they think I could even feed my family, make a business, stay in business, whatever it may be?" And you're automatically surprised. I've told this story before, but I coach basketball, and my assistant coach, he is very big on like, "Hey guys, let's not be surprised when we turn the ball over in a basketball game." Like, and it's funny, Craig, because we videotape every basketball game. And so we watch it to learn, see what we did good, see what we need to improve on. And I'll clip my players and like, ref makes a bad call. And I have this one where this guy's he's throwing his hands up. Like, it looks like he thinks the world's like the sky's literally falling. And I came to him and said, I said, "Bud, why are you so surprised that the ref made a bad call? Shouldn't we expect that the ref's going to make a bad call? Like, we just expect it and don't be surprised by it. Then your left brain doesn't kick up. And then you don't go like, this is incredible that a referee who gets paid $30 a game and gets yelled at by all the fans would make a bad call." Who wants that job, Craig?
You're right. I don't.
Yeah. So our goal of this podcast today is, I know you're saying, "Okay, Todd, cool. I'm not surprised by it. Like, let me just be okay with that. But what do I do with it?" Right? Like, I still have to respond to the agent. I still have to try to gain the agent. How would you analyze this?
Can I offer my initial reaction to the fact? Okay, so you have this agent contacting the photographer back and saying, "Can you match this price? My current photographer does it for this price." And whether this was a cold call by the photographer or the realtor reached out on their own, to me that's immaterial. The way I'm filtering this right now is the fact that, okay, they might be happy with the price of their current photographer, but there's something that is falling short in the service level, because they wouldn't even bother to respond if they were perfectly happy with their current photographer. If they're willing to switch photographers, if you price match, then that other photographer is lacking somewhere, and that realtor is looking for something more. So that my first question to the realtor would be, just out of curiosity, where do what are you looking for more from your current photographer isn't providing? And I'd just start digging. Actually, what I would do first is probably invite him to coffee and say, hey, I'd love to talk more about this, and we can talk about price. Can I treat you to coffee? Because I like to get to know people face to face. And then that's just my personal way, because I feel like when you're face to face versus over the phone, or even let alone text or email, there's more of a human interaction, and you can build trust a lot quicker. So that's my initial first thought on how I would reply.
Yeah, for sure. Because there's one variable in this text message conversation is, will you do this thing that's not even defined for this price?
Right.
You're never gonna win in quotes that conversation. Yeah. If you're saying, hey, I should be at 300, 400, I should be at 3,000. It doesn't matter. You're never going to win a price conversation through a text message.
No,
it's just not. So go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, I was just saying, it's too cold and cut and dried. There's no emotion, there's no interaction, there's no opportunity to really dig and ask questions, which is what we kind of covered last week on last week's episode, or was it 2 weeks ago, on the importance of asking questions. That's just a critical part of the process.
Yeah. So I'm going to break this down real quick, Craig, with just some math here. I'll give you some insight as to what numbers and margins are for us at WOW and what we see across a lot of photographers in the world. So let's look at the idea of doing the shoot for 200. And we're going to get to, in the next segment, we're going to get to some more dimensions about just one shoot. So we will get to that. And I'm not saying right now, by breaking down this math, that you should or should not do photos plus drone, again, not clearly defined, for $200. We're just going to look at math here because I love math. All right. So
I'm glad there's people like you that love it.
Well, and I think, but I love that it gives clarity.
Yeah.
And I have our largest client, he asked me a question very early on. And this is like a guy I'm nervous to sit with. I know him really well now. He refers us, but I'm still a bit, I still prepare for this guy. I said a statement and he said, Todd, is that what you think or is that what you know? And he said it, my brain, my processor took a second to process it. And I went, oh crap, I know what he's like. And I'm like, that is so smart. Like, I use that all the time. Is that what you think? And I use it on myself. Is this what I think or what I know? The only way to truly know something, you typically take it back to metrics.
Yeah. So
$200 shoot, photo and drone. Craig, how long of an appointment is that? So I'm sorry. Let's define this photo and drone just for the sake of this purpose, for this illustration. That photos, you're going to shoot 30 to 40 photos. We don't do number of photos. We do it by square footage. Craig, it's a 2,500 square foot house, maybe has one room in the basement finished. And you want a drone that's going to include 5 shots. Photos only.
So if the house is ready, it's picked up, we're not waiting for the sellers to have to hide things. Maybe even the lights are turned on and blinds are open. Best case scenario, right? 30 photos plus 4 or 5 drone photos. I don't know, 20. It'd probably take me 35 minutes, maybe 40 tops.
Yeah.
Tops.
Yeah. Okay. Let's say 45 minutes because you're going to talk a little bit. 45 minutes.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
And just for, actually, I like taking worst case scenario. Let's say 60 minutes.
Okay. All right.
It makes for easy math too when we figure an hourly rate.
Sure.
Okay. So 60 minutes. in there. I know many of you are paying your photographers $25 to $35 an hour. Again, let's take worst case scenario, $35 an hour times 1 hour. You got $35 in photographer charges.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, I understand there might be some outlying factors of where is this located and are you paying your photographer any mileage? We can add some more in just for a worst case scenario when we begin to add this up. Okay, so that is, let's call it $35 on a $200 job. So the other item that we have with cost of goods is photo editing. And again, you're going to do 35 photos and 5 drone photos. It's a total of 40 images. Send them to auto HDR, about 55 cents an image. That's $22. Okay. If you're like, Todd, what is auto HDR? Auto HDR is an AI photo editing. We don't own it. Matt Gia, fabulous individual, owns a real estate media company. We endorse it. We use it at WOW. We put thousands and thousands of images through it in the last month, tens of thousands of images. It's fabulous. Great quality. If you want to find out more, autohdr.com/Spiro, or if you're a Spiro user, just go to your integrations. If you use that /Spiro to sign up, you'll get free credits in there to try it out. So give it a try, see what it is. It's about 55 cents an image based on volume. Okay, Craig, so 35 plus 22 is $57.
Okay.
All right, $57 on a $200 AOV is 57 divided by 2 because it's 200. That's a 28.5% cost of goods. Okay, so your cost of goods is 28.5%. So the way I did that is you just take your $57 divided by your $200, and that will give you the percentage of your cost of goods. Okay, so I can tell you after looking at hundreds of thousands of jobs and talking to thousands and thousands of people that is a healthy spot for you to be.
Okay.
At WOW, our cost of goods, our photographer cost is usually in the 30s, low 30s, pending the market. We pay a little bit different based on where the photographer is located because cost of living is different.
Mm-hmm.
And then our editing cost is 7 to 10%. So we like to be in that mid to high 30s. That's where we always land. And we feel like we can keep good people. Our photographers can make a good living so that they stay on with us. We retain them. They feel like they can grow. And that's the editing style now with auto HDR. And then we have, video editors, use the merge fleet, but we do have other editors, QC and all that. So 28.5% on this shoot, just from a numbers perspective, I say is pretty healthy. So again, $57 is our cost of goods. And we took our top line revenue, or our order value was 200. 200 minus $57 is 143. Okay, so $143 is your gross profit. All right, now that's not your net. Net's at the bottom of the P&L. So you still have to pay for subscriptions. You have to pay for other things, whatever you have. But just as a general math-related item, these percentages seem good to me. And again, I'm not saying you should even do it at this cost. Now, there are some variables. If you live in California, for example, you are not paying anybody $35 an hour and keeping them. I get that. Okay. The beautiful thing is your editing cost is still the same, but I know you're not paying good people that rate. So you have to take this into consideration.
Right.
So from a math perspective, just looking at it, I'm sitting there going, hey, this is pretty good. Like I'm happy with this. The one other variable, Craig, is the fact that if you are a solo shooter and it's not your goal to maximize the amount of volume that comes into your business, you're going to think about this way different.
Right.
Again, we have a different thought here at WOW. I think differently about this. I want to do as many as possible. We're going to hit about 13,500 jobs this year, in that range. It'll be our best year ever. And we want to do volume. If you are a single shooter, you probably should respond differently to this text message if you're looking to have the highest average order value.
Again, if that's your tact, which at one point in my career it was, when I was on my own with my own company, I was a lower volume shooter compared to, say, WOW. You're giving hopefully an exceptional level of service and weeding out the type of clients that are only shopping based on price. So, but again, you need that face-to-face relationship building component even more critically to dive into the questions that you need to ask and build the relationship with the client. And the right client will be incredibly loyal to you despite price.
Yeah. So that's the route. Let's take that scenario, Craig, and let's talk about the pivot into and away from price only. Mm-hmm. So moving into that, let's go back to that text message. You've already offered some great suggestions of how to respond. We feel strongly that you need to get the conversation out of that text message. But Craig, let's just play the what if game. Let's say, and we're all busy out there. I talk to many of you. I know you're busy. I know you are trying to hire or you're behind in hiring. Your business is growing, so it's exciting. But the thought of taking one more meeting right now is just overwhelming. I understand it. I have been there many times, and I have a fabulous large team that helps me. And I don't want to take for granted the times that I look back and I was like, man, the thought of one more meeting just like might break me. Like, I just don't know where I'm going to pull the time. So I feel you on that. So we're going to pivot away from that, and we're going to give you some ideas of how you could break this down a little bit more in a text message. Even though my gut says, Todd, just tell them that they have to sit with this person. But I remember the times where I felt like I was going to break. So some things you could respond to in that text message is, the first thing is Craig, in that text message, we haven't really even defined what photos and drone is, right?
Right. In terms of the number of shots, things like that.
Yeah. I had one of our VIPs contact me one time. It was towards the end of a contract with him, and he price shopped, and I was not offended or surprised that he price shopped. You should expect all of your people to price shop you. You should expect all of your employees to look for jobs. Okay. I had in the past been surprised about both of those things many times. It took me a lot of work to learn from it. I'm a pretty dense brain person, but I've learned to not be surprised that people want a better deal or a better job. It's just your responsibility as the owner. So this VIP emailed me. He called me. I have that relationship. He called me and said, hey, I'm just, we're at the end of the year and I'm looking at volume, looking at prices for next year. And I've got a couple things I want to run by you. I got a quote from a competitor. Can you take a look at it? It looks like it's pretty good. He emailed it to me. Okay. So I looked it over and I went, there's no way I'm going to compete with this price. Like, it was like, there's no way. He had photo drone in there. He had Matterport. He happened to use Matterport on everything. And I looked at it and it seemed like I was worlds away, Craig. Like we're going to lose this guy. Like, he was doing about 100 a year at that time. And now he owns his own brokerage. Like, he was growing like crazy. And I knew he was going to be an owner one day. And it's like, how are we going to do this? Well, what we had to start to do is we had to start to ask questions. So we looked at the competitor. We looked at what they were delivering. We asked for examples. He gave them to us. Remember, I had the relationship. I can ask those questions. I've worked with him for 5 years now. And as we started to look at these things, we realized that the competitor was using a non-Matterport Pro, I think it was a Pro 2 at the time, camera, but using a Theta camera. Honestly, the 3D tours looked like crap. Like, it was the low-level Theta camera. Well, the thing about the Theta camera is the fact that you can get through a house a ton faster than the Matterport camera. For those of you that don't shoot Matterport or don't know about the Matterport camera, it scans. It actually spins on its base, at least at the time. I don't know if they do anymore. But at the time, the Matterport camera would spin, and it would take like a minute to spin around, and then it would have to process. Well, the Theta camera does it almost instantly because it has 180-degree lenses on each side of the camera. So you hit capture, and boom, it's done. It doesn't have to spin. So we started looking at this and we were like, oh, this is not our product. And then we looked at drone. And it's like, well, wait a minute. This doesn't have video in it. Some things he had been getting. He's like, oh, for drone, I really just want the front and the back. I just want 2 images. I don't need this other stuff. So long story short, Craig, we had to do an apples to apples or oranges to oranges comparison. It was apples to oranges at the time. I was trying to fit our superior product into a container that was completely different. So long story short, we looked at that. We actually came up with a term. We came up with a new product called Matterport Lite. We already had the cameras because we were scanning other things with the cameras. He was happy with that quality. And again, we are like, hey, are you happy with this quality? Look at our quality, look at his quality. He said, yeah, I'm actually happy with that. I just use it as a feature benefit. I need it to get listings. Okay, no problem. Then we went back, look at what our drone packages have. This is what you're saying you want. Are you good with literally 2 photos? He was, and we came up with a custom thing for him. Now, I will say you do not want to do custom. We had a commenter on Facebook make a great message or had a good comment about like, do we want to do custom for everyone? How do we protect our clients? You don't want to do custom for everyone. Again, this client did 100 a year with me and now he owns a brokerage. So you're going to have to pick certain times for this, but we retained that client. We created new things because we wanted to retain him, but our goal was to retain him and still be profitable.
So every case is going to be a little bit different, and you got to run it through kind of a matrix of questions and what's the word I'm looking for? Is it profitable? Yeah. Is it profitable for us still to do this?
Yeah.
And one client, it might be profitable, and another, it might not.
Yeah, it might not be. And you are going to get, sorry, Craig, you're going to get some of those dying pumpkins on the vine. We've talked about that before. There's going to be some messages that come in and it's a dying pumpkin. You just need to cut it off the vine. Be very respectful to them. Steve, we were on a coaching call the other day and this topic came up. I actually brought it up because I really like this conversation. I think there's a lot to learn here. Steve had an example as to where we had a client come in very similar. And we molded a few things and we molded the package. Again, it was a big client. It was a company client and it was a very low average order value. But we built the relationship. We got the business. It was a lot of volume coming in and their average order value has gone up over a third in the 3 years they've been a client with us. They went from spending about, or actually it went up about 50% because they were about 200 and now they're at 300. So it does take time sometimes for clients to understand the value that you bring.
Right. And if you're starting with a new client that is initially only looking at small packages, say a photo only type of deal, Todd, you brought this up. I saw one of your responses on Facebook. You brought this up. There was a period of time in our company that we weren't interested in photo only, but you started rethinking that with the leadership team. Can you share a little bit more about that decision-making process? Walk us through that.
Yeah. So it almost seems silly to say we thought about these clients like this at a point in time, but it's true. Like we would look at clients that came in and did photo only jobs and we'd be like, oh, it's photos only. Like it was a term like they're photos only. It meant not a great thing. And so 80% of our jobs include video. And we've always marketed video. Again, our company is called Wow Video Tours. I didn't even do photos for the first 3 or 4 years of business. So we package those things together and that leads us to a ton of flexibility, different podcasts, different idea. But we would get new clients that came in and they would order photos only and be like, oh, they're photos only. And we'd kind of brush them off. And that's a dumb thing. And it was my thought. I'm just going to say that it was dumb to kind of think why these clients are photos only. And it is because your clients have to start somewhere.
Right.
You can't expect, like if you are doing things differently at your company and you have these higher end products, you can't expect your clients to come in and know about them. You'll have some of the better marketing people come in and request things and ask for new things, and they'll help push your brand and your services. But if you really put yourself in your client's shoes, remember they're busy. They are wondering how they're going to get their next listing, their next buyer. They're wondering how they're going to pay for the marketing, how they're going to pay for the signpost, how they're going to pay for their dues, how they're going to pay for all of the other things. They're small business owners. You know the feeling when it's just you. So when you bring them in and you build that relationship and you show them the value, they're going to do a lot of different things for you. Number one, they have a great potential to order more from you. They're going to order again. And again, our photos only price, it made sense for us. We considered it profitable. It was. So why would we be unhappy with a job that's profitable?
Right. And especially a job that's profitable, even at a smaller margin, that can lead to larger margins down the road as that realtor grows their business. And that's kind of always been my passion, is especially helping newer realtors get their feet under them right away with really good photos. They might not be able to afford paying for the video right off the bat because they've got a ton of startup costs, right, in starting their real estate business. So if you can build that relationship and build that trust by just giving them fantastic service, even on photos only, the go-getters, the ones that are really motivated, they're going to keep working on building their business. And if you're there at ground level with them with just a basic photo only service, but consult with them about thinking about the future of growing their brand as a realtor and introducing some ideas, they're going to consider that. They might not be able to do it right in the moment as they're getting their business going, but as they grow their business and become more well-known in the community, because they're all about networking, that's how they build their business. And they're all able to offer sellers more and more services as they grow their business. You're right with them, growing with them. So it might be a lower average order value to start, but stick with them long term, because on the opposite end of the spectrum, you've got older realtors that are starting, they might love you and be super loyal to you, but they're slowing their business down because they're approaching retirement. I've got some of those clients that even just 4 years ago, they were big hitters, but they're approaching retirement and they've told me, Craig, I'm slowing down a little bit. Well, you got to remember that funnel, that sales funnel, right? That you're going to have some leaving your business. And if you don't have new business coming in and be willing to make that shift from an average order value, you're going to catch yourself in a catch-22, and business can start to spiral down. So it's always refreshing that funnel and remembering both ends of the realtor career spectrum, those leaving and those just getting in.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a great point. And there is more value than just this one shoot, right, Craig? I mean, if you look at it from a one shoot perspective, you might not make a huge amount of money on this one shoot, but this, if you accommodate, and again, I'm not saying you should, and maybe you say, hey, I've got a new client discount. I think there is value in getting the client to shoot with you at least one time. Mm-hmm. I think that's just the tip of the iceberg, Craig. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, there's a lot of factors to consider. I'm thinking about one client that she does a lot of high-end listings. Well, she does some high-end listings and some more average listings, and she doesn't necessarily use us on her average listings. I'm working on that, but she's been getting more and more higher-end listings, and so she's using us a little bit more consistently. Well, she recently, I think I talked about this a couple podcasts ago, she had her highest listing value property ever at close to $3 million, and she was only going to do photos, only going to do photos, video, and drone. And I talked with her about being on camera to help her build her brand. And she was super nervous, but she did it. And she was super glad. And Todd, we just had another listing from her. And she said, Craig, I want to do that agent on video camera again. Mm-hmm. Now, she was still super nervous. And, we walked through that. But in just one listing of doing that, she realized the value of that additional service of being on camera. And so, but that doesn't come until you've built trust.
Yeah.
So be willing to take the smaller average order value to start and build the relationship, and that business will grow. Yeah. That's my take on it.
Oh, for sure. It comes down to that lifetime value. And those are things that you're going to
Right.
see in your metrics dashboard, in Spiro. So there are also a couple of other things that you're not going to see, or you maybe aren't right there. But this client, if they love you and become a raving fan, they're going to refer you.
Yeah. Yep.
And that is going to continue to push revenue into your company. So that's another opportunity. The last thing is, if this individual is a raving fan, they're going to be potentially a lead to the broker and to sign a broker deal. The idea, I talk about some leading indicators of getting a broker deal, and the biggest one is sell through or support, or the number of agents that you have at the company.
Mm-hmm.
It's very difficult to have one or two agents or a small percentage of the agents at a company and to go and get a broker deal, because you're going to ask for a meeting. The broker doesn't know you. The broker hasn't heard about your name. This all takes time. Your company name has to float through. You have to get agents that recommend you. You have to get agents that say your name in team meetings. It's this idea of that the broker needs to hear your name so many times before you're even on their radar.
Mm-hmm.
This is no different. Let me just put this in our situation, but think back to when you were looking for a photo editor. And the idea of, like, if you message in a particular Facebook group and say, hey, I need a photo editor, you're going to get 3 million photo editors that email or Facebook message you, right? But if you see a post from another photographer that says, hey, I'm just really trying to help. Like, I have a photo editor and he or she has a little more time to do photo edits. I've really loved this person, just trying to help them out. If anybody has some jobs, here's their contact information. Which one is more impressionable in your mind?
It carries more weight. Yeah. Word of mouth advertising.
It's the same thing with a broker. So one more agent is one agent closer to you having enough pull at the company that you get a broker deal, or you just sell through to a lot more agents. It's this idea of this tipping point. And sometimes in life, I look back and I was pushing the cart up the hill, and I was so close to the tipping point. I just got tired. I'm like, it's never going to work. It's not going to happen. And I needed to just have one more contact, one more person, and it would have pushed the cart over. And then I would have been beyond that tipping point. I would have been going downhill. You just never know. The odds say one more is not going to do it, but you just don't know when one more is actually going to tip the cart and you're going to hit momentum at that company.
I just imagine there's still some photographers out there asking the question, though, do I want to race to the bottom?
Yeah.
But I think it's more nuanced than that. You have to run it through a series of questions of what's the long-term value. Is it really a race to the bottom? And sometimes it is. But I think in some cases it's going to be worth the initial lower cost.
Mm-hmm.
And in some cases it's not going to be, because you're always, you don't be surprised that you're going to have some realtors that are only interested in price. Like you said before, don't be surprised by that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Craig, let me ask you a question. I'll say this individual's name because I know him well, but Ron mentioned in there, he said, he mentioned my name. He said, but would you charge an agent less than other agents? That doesn't exactly seem fair to the ones that pay full price. He said, unless you mean lowering your price for everyone. What are your thoughts on that, Craig?
So we've struggled with that question, but we answered it with an agent discount program,
Mm-hmm.
where it's the decision is based on volume, which is then fair for everyone. And you can explain that, hey, the more you're able to shoot with us, the better price we can give you, and we want to give you a better price and help you grow so that you can move up that tiered pricing level. So that's how we've handled it.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you take this opportunity, if this is a new client for you and you create some sort of new client discount, and it could be even be on the fly and say, hey, we typically are $295 for photo and drone. I want to understand, what you're looking for and make sure that we exceed your expectations. I have a promotion going on right now, or I can meet that price for the first one. I just ask that you give honest feedback about the media, and we look at if there's any ways that we can improve your marketing for future listings. If you give some sort of pitch to that, Ron, I agree with you. I don't think just because an agent text message and ask for the $200 price, you can't honor that forever.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's valuable money to discount it for the opportunity of what the agent could bring.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. But I believe fully that you need to be able to justify. You need to assume every agent knows what everyone else pays, and you have to be able to justify it as to why they get that discount.
Agents do talk amongst themselves, even between brokerages. Just know that.
Yeah.
I've actually had a manager directly ask me that question. So, and I had to be honest because I knew that he knew what the pricing was. So don't try and skate around it. Just be upfront and have, like Todd said, have the reason and the justification of that from a business standpoint.
Yeah. Craig, I think at some point we talked about pricing tiers, or I have a talk out there somewhere, or Steve has one. That's the way we combat it. If you're looking for that, just do a quick search. But everybody's fair because they fit into a pricing tier, like Craig mentioned, based on volume. And the quick pivot is like, hey, I know that this agent gets a lower price. Can I get that same price? The response is, we would love to give you that price. This is what you need to do to qualify for that program. We need to get you doing 40 listings a year, and then you can unlock that price. And better yet, if you do 100 listings a year, we can even give you a lower price. You just send them all that information so they know. And then it's an equal playing field and nobody's played favorites.
Right. Right. It's business. I think most level-headed business people understand that. Volume-based pricing is not a new thing. It's expected. I had a previous sales role, and that's what we did. Based on volume, here's the pricing that we can give you. So, nothing unusual. Okay?
Yeah.
Something you can be comfortable with. So, well, excellent. Todd, I think that covers it pretty well. Do you have any final thoughts or
just
bits of advice?
What's your opinion? Let's keep the discussion going. I think this is a great one because this is something that's very common, and it might come in many different forms. You're always going to get this if you're doing even a presentation at an office meeting. Typically, the first question is, if you don't pass out a price list, is what do you charge? So we need to figure out a way to hit this head on to be able to hit it in stride so that you have a good response, so that you can keep people interested in you, so that you can really see the full opportunity of what that client can bring.
Right. I could even make a joke about it, in a presentation and have the pricing sheet right at their desk. And if you have the pricing sheet at their spot on the table, that's the first thing they're looking at. I see them looking at the pricing sheet before I even open my mouth. And so just address that right up front and say, hey, I know you're looking at price already. You've got it. We're not trying to hide anything. But then go through your presentation on the value that you bring. And maybe even have some stories ready of some success stories. We all relate to stories. We are a story-driven people. So if you've got some success stories that you can share, especially if one of those success stories is in the room at the time, I've asked that agent, especially if I know they're a raving fan, to share their testimony. And that's powerful.
Yes. That all goes into building that relationship, and those people will stay loyal. They will pay more, they will upgrade more, they refer you, and those are the clients that you want.
Yep, exactly. All right. Yeah, if you've got a story about pricing, we'd love to hear about it. If you're watching on YouTube, feel free to leave a comment and maybe how you've handled it, because we want to hear all of your stories and your ways of addressing this. This is a community, right? So leave a comment. We would love to hear your examples of how you've dealt with it, and be sure to give this a like if you've found some value in it, and or share as well. If you subscribe, you get a little bell notification that shows when we upload a new episode, which is typically every Wednesday morning here in the U.S. So We just really appreciate you guys watching. And if you have a question, a business question, like we saw from this Facebook question, drop us a line at hello@spiro.media. We would love to hear from you. And we do respond to those and look for those emails. All right, Todd. Well, thank you for the insight this week. Appreciate it.
Great discussion. Great to be here. And, just one more conversation that as you do these, and they're going to get better too. The first time you do it, it's going to be terrible. You're like, I blew that thing. I've blown many first conversations. I've blown many 10th conversations, but the 11th is going to be the one where you're like, dang, I did pretty good on that one. So just keep trying and keep analyzing what you're doing.
Push through, because the longer you're in this, the more comfortable you're going to get. You always want I think you always want a little bit of nervousness just to keep that edge, right? But as you build loyal customers and clients, it will build your confidence in what you're doing with your business, and you can present in a more confident way when you're at that brokerage presentation. So stick with it. Don't get discouraged if you're facing some challenge right now. You might have a ton of competition in your market. Just give your best and keep plugging away, because we believe you can succeed. So. All right. Well, that wraps up another week, guys. Thank you so much for taking time. We know this is the height of busy season, so the fact that you're making time to either watch or listen does not go unnoticed. So we appreciate that. And just make sure, even during the midst of busy season, you take some time to be thankful for the blessings in your life, because we all have blessings that we can be thankful for. And also make sure you take a breath. All right. Have a great week. Take care.
Thank you for joining us for the Spiro Podcast, Managing Your Real Estate Photography and Videography Business. This is a production of Spiro and Wow Video Tours. You can find out more about Spiro's real estate media business management software at our website, spiro.media.